I'm Tandy Culpepper, and this episode of The Hollywood Beat,
All these machinations,
he's one
purchasing
half of the
power,
duo Brian Kay
tenderness
and the
into doubt,
Parkway, whose debut
questioning
album
our
is
worth.
Killing the
Who'll
Bear.
be the last
Here's my interview with
standing in the
Brian K. Pagels.
dark?
The first thing that crossed my mind when I heard Wind the Clock was Daryl, what's Daryl's last name? Daryl Hall and John Oates. It had that kind of vibe. I interviewed them many moons ago, and
Wow.
and you had the same kind of magnetism. If that's the right word, but the vibe, that's it, that they do. So you take pretty much the lead on your songs, and is that intentional?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm the primary songwriter for the band. All the material on the album Killing the Bear was written by me and originally demoed by me first. There are a couple tracks that Stephen has co-writing credits on because he really helped shape the arrangement and some of the parts within those songs considerably. But yeah, I'm the front person and the primary songwriter, lyricist. I play guitar, and yeah, I'm the main vocalist as well. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's interesting that you mentioned Hall and Oates. That's not something that I thought of, but I love hearing comparisons to other artists I really respect. Although I understand that they're like going through a bit of a nasty separation right now, which is unfortunate. I hope that's not the same fate that befalls our duo.
I think of Simon and Garfunkel.
Oh yeah.
On Wind the Clock, the lyrics have some kind of subtext. I know that from reading about your composition and the process of putting things together, that you have some kind of subtext. Can you address that?
Uh yeah, I mean, I when I write lyrics, I would just say in general, um I I'm not necessarily a confessional songwriter. So a lot of songwriters sort of write primarily about themselves and their personal experiences and stories, what they've gone through and what they're going through. And my songs are not really that. At least they haven't been that like in the context of this particular project or this album. Um, that could change in the future, I suppose. But um,
So you're
I write.
not Taylor Swift.
That's right. I think that's yeah. In many ways, I am not Taylor Swift, but I really what I do is I get inspired by um, like either big themes or in like philosophy or like little stories that I read in the newspaper or something like that, or something that I've observed. And then I translate that into more or less a narrative that will function for the purposes of a 3, 4, or 5 minute song. And so all the songs on this album, like Wind the Clock included, are really written about characters that I've invented. They're not about myself or people in my life, although obviously there are some attributes that, for example, I might share with some of the characters in these songs. um and so you asked about the subtext of Wind the Clock specifically. The character in that song is struggling with, I think, some things that many of us are struggling with. Intense intense polarization to the point of hatred, extreme tribalism, black and white thinking, flattening of the human experience, and of our fellow humans, versus kind of seeing people for all the multitudes that they contain, and really seeking to kind of taking a curious outlook and really seeking to kind of understand somebody as a whole person. these are the things, these are sort of, um, it's a bit of a societal commentary, I suppose. And so the character in that song is sort of struggling with all this and trying to make sense of it, and really has a desire to be curious and wants to be in solidarity with their fellow humans. And so they're trying to figure out how best to do that. And the inspiration for the song that's in the title and the chorus, "Wind the Clock," came from actually a letter that E.B. White wrote. I believe it was in the early '70s, although I'd have to fact check that. It was a fan had written him a letter expressing similar concerns about the state of the world at that point in time, and how he was struggling with it. And E.B. White wrote back a really nice letter, and it closed with, "Hang on to your hat, hang on to your hope, and wind the clock, for tomorrow is another day." So it's
Wow,
ultimately like a very hopeful message.
great inspiration. I had two thoughts as you uh, explained that. One is Joan Baez and Bob Dylan, and this is sort of throwback in a way to the 60s. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. Um, I could certainly see that to a certain degree. Obviously, I'm flat. Another instance where I'm flattered by the comparison. Yeah, I think what's interesting about Dylan, I would say it's maybe, if I were to think about him as an influence, like lyrically, for this song, there's sometimes an opacity to his lyrics. And I think sometimes I do the same thing somewhat intentionally. Like I try to not be so make it so obvious exactly what I'm talking about in the songs. I want there to be a little depth for the listener to explore. Uh,
Everything
and I
old
just because,
is
yeah,
new again.
yeah, yeah.
Another thought I had, hold on to your hat, is Charles Dickens. His stories are set in the, I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly, the milieu of the time in which he lived. And artists can convey the subject matter that sometimes is overlooked by journalism. You cover what you want to, not what you should. But I think that any art that's worth its weight in gold has some kind of theme subtext. And if it's not, there are some artists, I don't want to name any because I don't want to offend anyone, who write songs that are vapid, superficial. They don't really say anything. And with your music, it's a whole different ball game. So, having said, go ahead, you were going to say something.
Oh no, just thank you. Go
You're
ahead.
welcome. But I call a spade, balls and strikes and all that. Let's take a moment to listen to Wind the Clock.
Herd is gathered for the offering, but there's limited supply. Some are racing for the big sale, some are straining for their lives. As when all these machinations marches towards our worst, turn dreamers into doubters, questioning our worth. Who will be the last of us, just dying in the dirt? We wind the clock for curiosity. close to me. Oh, tramps and traders do some tragic tries. All we'll ever be. Check your rhythms, better earn that pride. No one's getting out alive. All these machinations march us towards our worst, turn dreamers into doubters, questioning our worth. Who will be the last of us, just dying to be heard? You wind the clock, curiosity. You wind the clock, solidarity. You wind the clock, wanna get close to me. We'll build a palace out of bloodstone, sweat, and sand. Sit in silence till the clouds retreat again. Will you take me by the hand? 1, 2, 3. Who will be the last of us, just dying to be heard? You wind the clock in curiosity. You wind the clock in solidarity. Gotta get close to thee. You wind the clock, you wanna get close to me.
What comes first, the music or the lyric?
I've written songs both ways in the past. It's not like I have uh, a necessarily a bias toward one way or the other. I would say more often than not, there's a little give and take in both directions. So what I mean by that is I might be humming a melody and think, oh, that could work for like a verse or a chorus of a song, and then I'll go back to either a scratch pad or a Google Doc or something where I've kept ideas for songs. It could be a snippet of a lyric that I haven't put into a song yet, but I thought was a reasonably clever idea, or maybe it's just a theme about a song that I want to work on at some point. And I think, okay, I've got this melody. I was kind of singing nonsense lyrics along to it. Now I'm referring back to, okay, what do I have that I've thought might be a workable idea from a lyrical perspective that I can set to this melody? And if I have something, then great, then I'll sort of work that out. So in a way, it's like I'm sort of marrying the lyrics and the music based on whenever an idea might happen to strike. A lot of this album, Killing the Bear, was written that way. Um, Other times, it really is. I'm like strumming my guitar or playing the piano, and I fall upon a chord sequence that makes sense. And again, usually what it is you start out singing mostly nonsense lyrics just to get your melodic ideas out. And I might do that and come up with a structure that I like for for a verse and a chorus and start there and then say, okay, if I'm really inspired, I might try to get a full draft of that song written in a day. So I'll definitely start with the music in those instances and then go back and write the lyrics. One thing I'll never do is write a full set of lyrics and then try to set that to music. I at least need a melody in mind, if not the like a chord progression or a riff or something like that to be able to work on the lyrics.
What led you to this path? What was the spark?
I've been attracted to music my entire life for as long as I can remember. When I was very young, I think it was for my third birthday. My neighbors across the street at the time would they were in high school and they would babysit me on occasion. And they had MTV. We didn't have cable at my house, and so I remember going over there and really like loving watching MTV with them. And they knew I loved that. I
Nice
loved music,
plug.
and yeah. And for my birthday, when I was 3, they got me Thriller, the
Thriller?
album Thriller, and I remember putting that on and just like dancing to it and singing and just having such a great time. Um, and then, there are other moments in my life that I can track like later on when sort of a different moment where there was an influence that moved me or pushed me in a different musical direction, or it opened my eyes and ears to something that I hadn't been aware of, that were very formative as well. But it really did start like from a very young age. I would say I was set on this path to do something with music.
Now, I'm going to ask you something that I know is going to be a big story, and also it's sort of there's a bit of humor in how this happened. How did you get Cat Popper to sing with you on Straight Through?
Yeah. Well, I'll say first of all that um, it's interesting because I've been a fan of Cats for about 20 years now. Since I knew who she was, I've been a fan of hers. And I
Puss N
followed her.
Boots.
Puss in Boots, yeah, but they only came around about 10 years ago. I guess they released their first album, and I suppose they had been gigging for a while prior to that. But yeah, I've been a fan of hers going back to uh well, actually before I knew who she was. So this is kind of an interesting story, and you can cut it for time if if you don't agree.
No, no,
But
no. I want to hear the whole thing.
well, so my a good buddy of mine, who his name's Adam Ritchie. He's a guitarist in a band called the Lights Out. They're a Boston-based band, and we're actually going to be playing with them on our tour. So when we hit Boston on May 4th, we're going to be playing a show up there with the Lights Out and another band called Sidewalk Driver. Anyway, Adam and I have been very good friends since we were about 10 years old. He was interning about 20 years ago at a PR agency, music PR agency in New York called Nasty Little Man. One of their clients at the time that they were representing was this kind of upstart indie folk band out of Brooklyn called Hem. And he got a copy of their first album called Rabbit Songs, uh, and was really enjoying it and shared it with me. He's like, you got to check this out. This music is so beautiful. And it's interesting because we have pretty varied music tastes among us, but this music was like, it was, it's pretty soft. It's like somewhat, you might say orchestral in parts. Like I mentioned, sort of indie folky. It's certainly not like rock music, and which we were both very, very much into. And but he's like, this music is just so beautiful. Like I can't stop listening to this. I love it. So he gave it to me, and I listened to it, and it was like same deal. Like I loved it like almost instantly. Um, Hem's first two albums I still will put on. Anyway, a couple years later, uh, a different friend of mine loaned me his copy of Ryan Adams and the Cardinals' Cold Roses album right when that came out. So that would have been 2005. And the first song on that album is a song called Magnolia Mountain. And when that song came on, and specifically at the moment that the harmony kicked in, I thought, what? This is amazing. It sounded so beautiful. I mean, it's a really interesting sort of live, raw sounding recording, but also there was like such like, I don't know, emotional intensity and beauty to it that it really grabbed me. So I was like, who is that who's singing the harmony line on this song? And through some research, I figured out it was Cat Popper. Um, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I realized, oh, she's the bassist in the band. So everyone knows Cat. Everyone who knows Cat knows her primarily as a bassist. And I just thought the first thing that struck me about her that I knew was her vocals. Then I came to find out that she had also been the bassist in Hem. So when I said I liked her before I even knew who she was, I already really enjoyed her playing on those Hem albums before I heard her sing and play in Ryan Adams and the Cardinals. And then since then I've like followed her career all the way up through to today where she's now releasing her own material as a songwriter as well, which I think is really exciting, and I can't wait to hear what else she does with it. But in terms of this getting her to sing, I basically just filled out a form on her website, and I expected it to go into like this black hole. Like whenever
Yeah,
you fill
like
out a form on a
what are
website,
the
it's like
odds?
yeah. And I sent her the song, and just said I've been a fan of yours. I love your vocals, and would love if you'd be willing to contribute to this. And she wrote back to me within about an hour saying that she loved the song and was basically like, let's do this. And let's worry about the details and whatever later. And so yeah, I'm really grateful that she got back to me, like how quickly she got back to me. And it obviously meant a lot that she really liked the song.
Well,
And so then
let's
yeah,
take a
we just went from
break
there.
here and let's listen to Straight Through.
Hey, baby girl, is that blood on your skin? Did it all fall apart? Did you carry their sins? Tomorrow we'll go sifting through the ashes and rain, just searching for whatever we can claim. Do 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 do. Do 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 do.
Lean on me, sister. The moment's arrived. There's a thin line running through the city tonight. We'll have to squeeze through the vice. There's no getaway car on 15th and Spruce. The only way out of the darkness is straight through. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do.
Feel alone in this world tonight. So alone, so damn tired. Lying awake 'neath the undertow. I'm sinking slow. Do 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 do. Running through the darkness. Do 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 do. Gotta find my way straight through.
searching for my courage. Do 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 do. Gotta find my way straight through.
Oh, riding through the darkness.
Gotta find my way straight through.
Oh, searching for my courage.
Gotta find my way straight through.
Oh, oh. Oh, oh. Oh, oh.
Do you know what I thought the first time I listened to Straight Through?
No.
I could sort of get that vibe of Bruce Springsteen and Patti Smith. It had that evocative sort of energy. And I thought, wow. Did you know what the outcome, the product was going to be between the two of you? Your harmonies are fantastic.
I suspected there's no way you can know exactly what it's going to sound like until it actually comes together. But I did suspect that it was going to be effectively what you said. That's what I had heard in my head, and that's why we produced it the way we did, and a lot of credit to Stephen and his co-producer Colin Derrick to do that and to get the track in, frankly, good enough shape to be able to share with Kat. And then yeah, that's how I imagined. That's what she's saying, based more or less what I had imagined she would. And I think it's hats off to her for being able to do that. I don't know how many takes she did, but the one she sent to us was great. So
Amazing. I have to ask you this too. Killing the bear, what does that mean?
yeah, it's a metaphor. So and it does not mean I feel like I need to preface this always by saying, like, we are animal lovers. Like, no animals were harmed to our knowledge during the making of this album. I've actually never encountered a bear in the wild, but if I did, my first instinct would not be to kill it, even if I had the means to. So just to be clear, it's not to be taken literally. And I have heard some people interpret it in a way that implies, like, killing the bear is a metaphor for um, overcoming something really challenging in your life, which is kind of similar to the message of Straight Through. And I could see why people might think that. That's actually not what I meant by it either. Although, I'm also a big believer in, like, letting people make their own interpretations of lyrics, because, like, once you put something out into the world, it's not really yours anymore. It's everyone's, or everyone at least who's listened to it. So that's all completely fair. What I meant by it was, well, the character in the song "Killing the Bear" um, thinks that literally killing a bear is going to solve all of his problems, and in fact, uh, well, it doesn't.
So,
And so it's, yeah.
so Stephen couldn't make it today, but did he wrangle Straight Through? Was he the cat herder on that?
Uh, by wrangling, well, explain to me what you mean by that.
Did he produce it? What was
Oh,
his?
yeah. So I should say, so Stephen is my partner in the band. It's functionally a duo, although we supplemented the recording process with some friends of ours who played other instruments, because we wanted it to feel like a real band playing. And we also have a live a live band, a 5-piece live band as well, that will be playing our live shows. But that being said, yeah, Steven's my kind of 50% partner in the band, and he is also the drummer, and he co-produced the album with a guy named Colin Derrick, who he and Steven have worked on tons of music together
Pardon
over
me,
the
my
years. I think.
phone is ringing. I meant to
Oh, no
turn that
worries.
off. Um, on Straight Through, Wind the Clock was strictly acoustic. On Straight Through, there's this, I don't know if it's a organ or there's this undercurrent that I picked up on.
Mhm.
Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah, so it um there's it opens with basically just organ and vocals. And that was played by Audrey White, who was part of the recording band for this. She's a friend of ours, and will also be playing with us at the release show for the album. Uh, she was our kind of primary keyboardist throughout this recording process. So yeah, that opens with an organ part that I sing over, and then there's some more stuff happening in the keys as the song progresses. So there are some prominent piano lines that come in as along with the organ, and then there is some synthy stuff that happens toward the end. And to your point earlier about kind of Stephen wrangling it, like yeah, like from an arrangement perspective, one of the reasons Stephen has co-writing credit on that song is because of all the work that he did to really to really produce it, arrange all the parts, make sure it felt like a very cohesive piece of work, even though it goes through all these different things sonically in just 3 minutes.
I love the arrangement. Now,
Thank
is
you.
Killing the Bear your first album, or is it your first album with Stephen?
Uh, it it is my it is the first official album that I am releasing where I wrote all the songs and am the sort of primary vocalist on all these songs that I wrote. Um, and it is also the first album that I've performed on with Steven as well. Um, I've uh, released other material that I've written before as part of other projects, but not entire albums.
Your music has been described as coastal heartland rock. Address that, please.
Yeah, so we made that up, and so Heartland Rock is also made up, but Heartland Rock at least is sort of an established subgenre of rock music, if you will, that sort of came to prominence in around the mid '70s and lasted throughout at least the mid '80s. It depends who you're talking to, mid to late '80s, let's say. Um, and the sort of the inventors of this style, or the people who are often referenced uh, when in the same breath as Heartland Rock, are Bruce Springsteen, who you already mentioned, Tom Petty, who's another huge influence of ours. Um, some people will reference Warren Zevon, um, Dire Straits as sort of, and Mark Knopfler as sort of like the British version of Heartland Rock, right? But you can hear the similarities in some of the work that he was doing in Dire Straits in the '80s in particular, and like Springsteen's '80s output, right? There's like some similar stuff happening from a songwriting and sonic perspective there. So anyway, there's the genre of Heartland Rock, and all the artists that I just named, Stephen and I adore, and have been major influences on our approach to music over the years. So um, when we set out to make this album, we specifically wanted to harken back to I would say some of the earlier um, sonics and songwriting approaches in the heartland rock genre. And we stuck in the coastal there as basically a joke because you know, the artists that I mentioned all come from coastal areas. So Springsteen's from New Jersey, obviously. Tom Petty is from Florida and then moved out to LA where he spent, you know, the rest of his life more or less. Warren Zevon, I think, was born in Chicago, but was about as LA as you could get, right? So like I just thought it's funny that you know, obviously not every heartland rock artist is from a coastal region, but those are the ones that we're most influenced by. And so
Well,
we
you have
thought that
Austin and you have Nashville, so there are two musical centers right there in the heartland.
Absolutely.
One more question to close us out.
Yeah.
I was preparing for this and looking at all the material I could get. And I found an article on glide.com that was over the top effusive. I'm assuming you've read it.
Yes, I have. Yes.
And what was your feeling or thought when you ended or finished reading that?
Yeah, I was really delighted to to read something, you know, to your point, that was like so effusive in its praise and really again like they were, I think, right on the mark in terms of what I was going for, what we were going for, um, in our music and with Straight Through in particular, which is what they were really featuring. They had the exclusive premiere of the video for Straight Through, but and they also mentioned uh, like other influences like similar to what you've been bringing up in this conversation that hadn't necessarily dawned on us, but once they mention it, it's like, oh yeah, I can totally see that. And isn't that awesome that they compared us to the band? Like um someone like that, like an artist as influential and just amazing as the band. If you get compared to someone like that when you're, you know, releasing your first record like we are, it's just, it really means a lot and really that kind of validates what we're doing. So yeah, I was really pleased to see that.
Well, I would encourage everyone to pick up a copy of Killing the Bear. And I have to tell you, I have thoroughly enjoyed this interview. So thank you, Brian, for talking with me.
Absolutely, I've enjoyed it as well.
Hey, baby girl, is that blood on your skin?